So my mom didn't let me take Tylenol or really any painkillers when I was growing up and I had menstrual cramps. And so will I let my daughter? I guess you'll see. It's the year 2000 and I'm sitting in my grade 8 French class. My flared mauve jeans are tight around my waist. I'm bloated. And the crown of my head is radiating in a ring of fire that never ends. And my lower abdomen, it feels like there are little gremlins inside my uterus using pickaxes trying to pick at the walls of my uterus, kind of digging and mining for popcorn kernels. And so I say, "Est-ce que je peux aller aux toilettes, s'il vous plaît?" Which is, may I go to the washroom? Madame Murdoch nods. I get up, I walk to the washroom, I open the door, I sit on the toilet with my pants on. I lean over, I put my fingers on my temples and I start to rub. And then I look at my watch. There's 15 minutes left in class until the end of school, end of the day. I take a deep breath. I get up. I open the door. I walk back to class. I sit down in my chair and I just look at the clock as every minute goes by. It's dread. And finally, the bell rings and it marks my struggle walk home, so that I can finally lie down. So I get home, I take off my flared mauve jeans, I, change into my sweats, I lie down on my bed, and then I get enough energy or enough of a, kind of like a whoosh of energy to come up, get up, go to the kitchen, heat up a magic bag, which is kind of like a water, like I guess a heating bag, I guess a heating pad. Get some hot tea, and I kind of retreat back into my room. My mom finally comes home from work and she sees me in my room and she knocks on the door. She's like, "Hey, what's up?" And I was like, "I have my period." And she's like, "Yep, that's how it is. Being a woman is like that, but it'll pass." So I watched, growing up, I watched Tylenol get passed around, almost like Tic Tacs. Throughout high school, I'd watch friends and classmates of mine just effortlessly pass these painkillers around like they were candy. Whether it's for cramps or a headache or just, a late night of partying. A girl would be like, "Hey, do you have an Advil?" Her friend would be like, "Yeah, just let me check my purse." And then her friend would go into her purse and then get the bottle and then toss that bottle back to her friend across the desk, and then her friend would open it and put one in her mouth and then with a swig of her water bottle take it down and pass the bottle back around back to her friend. And so I was always fascinated by how they just effortlessly took the pills. Because I was either thinking they must be in incredible pain for them to need painkillers, or maybe they're weak and just a little bit of pain, they need something to curb the edge off. So before I kind of go into the reasons why and how it affected me, I'll give you a little bit more context about my mom. My mom is incredibly dedicated to her health. She's, she really growing up discouraged me and my sisters discouraged us from taking medication unless it was prescribed by our doctor. And anything else that was unnatural and unnecessary, it shouldn't be taken until the last resort. And that pain is, she really believed that pain is part of life, and riding it out was a badge of honor for her. And, of course, many Asian moms, they master the art of hiding their emotions. Even if they're in immense pain, their face is just super calm and just no expression. And that word, that Chinese word yun, they just took that word and, embodied that character. And so because she really prioritized her health, she'll try everything and anything to prevent disease before resorting to Western medicine, any sort of pills. And so she eats out works out regularly, eats very healthily. She works out like a beast, hikes, swims, goes to the gym, practices yoga, will try any sort of de-stressing technique, And so like, that's like one of the things I really absolutely admire about her is her prioritization for her health. Because, you know, as a mom myself, like I every day try and strive to be like her, because I always prioritize myself and my health before, because I know that if I'm in a healthy state and, you know, my well-being is prioritized, then, you know, everyone else kind of benefits. And I think, and a lot of mothers struggle with that because they have this martyr kind of belief that you have to sacrifice yourself for your kids because that's the only way you can be a good mom. And so, you know, and in a way, I'm very grateful that my mom prioritized her health, because it really showed to us that her and her well-being is what matters, and she was a great role model, and gives me the reassurance to take, you know, that half an hour for myself to go for a walk, and to, you know, that it's okay to leave my kids for a little bit so that I can get a facial, or I can get a, you know, massage, or you know, take that time to practice self-care, because she was a living, breathing example of that. So there was a day when I asked, here's the day when I asked for a Tylenol. Okay, so like if growing up, if my household was only run by my mom, I would probably have like no access to any sort of painkillers. But unlike my mom, my dad is like, he didn't really believe pills were the devil. He was like, he would take medicine for everything. Like if he had heartburn, you know, like nausea, if he had gas or joint pain or like just anything, he'll just be like, hey, well, I don't want to experience pain and there's a pill to help it, then I'm going to take it. So he kept our medicine cabinet fully stocked. And one day I mentioned to my mom, I was like, you know what, like I have period cramps right now. I want to take a Tylenol. Like, and she responds to me like, I don't think we have any. And then so I said to her, I'm like, no, Dad has some in the like in his medicine cabinet, like in your bathroom. And then she's like, he takes pills for everything. He can't stand pain. He's like, he's got like a very low tolerance for pain. He's a man, right? Like, like as though like men, you know, anyways, I'm not even gonna go down that route of what the expectations of men are and what the expectations of females are. But, you know, so I didn't end up taking one because she convinced me like that I shouldn't be like him. And so for a long time, I honestly thought painkillers were for the weak. And so I'd pride myself for not taking anything every time I had period cramps. And I had to find alternative ways of easing the pain, like, you know, like the hot water bag, the magic bag, and drinking hot tea, breathing exercises, you know, like just trying everything to prevent the cramps or just ease the pain in natural ways. And it was like a belief system. I honestly believed that every time I experienced pain and I went through it, that I would become stronger. Like, you know, kind of like the immune system, like, you know, every time you get a little bit sick, you kind of, your immune system learns from it. And then if it happens again, you know, like it comes back a little stronger. Like for instance, years ago, I caught the Norwalk virus, and it was just horrendous. Like took like so long to recover from. Like everything was coming out all ends. And then and then a few years later after that, I caught it again, and it wasn't like as bad. It took maybe a couple days to heal or to recover from. So it's kind of like that, right? I just thought that every time I experienced period cramps and it was very painful, that the next time it would be a little bit better. You know, then that like by the time I reached adulthood in my like 20s, and like that my hormones would balance out and it wouldn't feel like anything, you know, because growing up, like that's how my mom was. Like when she had period cramps, she would just be like, it's not painful, like menopause, you know. And then it really was an episode of Scrubs that changed my entire mindset. It was university. I was like sitting in the living room, probably studying or taking notes for a midterm or something like that, and an episode of Scrubs came on, and there was a scene where Dr. Cox, so if you don't know the show, Dr. Cox is this like, I don't know, like crazy mentor that's like really hard on people, but he's got a really good heart, and he's like kind of rough around the edges. Anyway, so Dr. Cox was reviewing one of the charts that a resident had done, and he quickly scans it, then he's like, grabs the resident, you know, by his collar and was like, and he yells at him, and I don't know exactly what the exact lines were, but he was like, "You idiot, did you write a prescription for acetaminophen?" do you know what the right prescription is? And then he like lets go of the guide and like sees a bottle coming by like of the Tylenol, and then he grabs it and just opens it and throws it in the guy's face, and then the resident like is the poor guy is like runs off scared shitless, right? And so, but then after that scene, like I only like looked up for that scene. It made me think, because I was like, and so I was like, is it really that bad to take a painkiller for something? Like, is it gonna like completely destroy my body, as my mom had, you know, taught me? I mean, they're making a joke about it on television. I mean, not that you should trust everything that you see on television, right? Monkey see, monkey do. But anyway, so I grabbed a bottle of Tylenol, looked at the back, like the label and all the warnings, like all the tiny writing, and then I, you know, there's like a little peel, you peel it back, and you also read all that. And I read it about like probably 10 times, and then I did a Google search on my laptop, and I was like what are the real harmful effects? And I was like, it's like, it's not bad, like it's not that bad, it's not the doom and gloom that I expected. It's one of those like things where you don't know what you don't know, and then once you actually know, it's actually not as scary as it really is. And so I was like, you know what, I don't have my period now, but like next time I'm gonna take a Tylenol. And so the next time I got my period, I got a bottle, and you know, and I opened it up and took one, and you know what, within 10-15 minutes, it wasn't like one of those extra strength ones or whatever, but cramps went away, and I was like, why am I not doing this? Ultimately, what it comes down to is that everyone has a different tolerance for pain. And I mean, this is just like kind of like a segment to the idea of pain management. You know, to this day, I have both Advil and Tylenol fully stocked in my medicine cabinet in my family. You know, I have a bottle at my work, at my desk. I have it in my travel makeup bag, so that when I go traveling, if it happened to have my period or whatever, even have a headache, I have access to it. Have some in my purse, you know, and and if it happens, like when I do experience a headache, I take one. I'm not judging myself. I don't judge others for doing it. And I really don't think too much about it when I do. Ultimately, really, it comes down to learning and embracing the fact that everyone has a different tolerance to pain. You know, like a stubbed toe for me hurts like the dickens, but for someone else, it might just be like a little scratch. Like, oh, okay, whatever. For me, it hurts. And then, you know, and then of course, pain looks like many different things, right? Like it doesn't have to be physical pain. It could be, you know, losing a loved one. It could be recovering from an illness. It could be being let go from a job, getting dumped. You know, painful experiences affect people differently, and how they manage is very dependent on what works for them, and their level of resilience, right? Their emotional resilience to dealing with that. And so it kind of transcends not just the physical pain, but the emotional, mental aspect of it. And like, the thing is with my mom, I don't know what her real pain tolerance is. Maybe her pain tolerance is actually very high. And because it's very high, she has that same expectation for her kids. And I think that's something that I'm going to try and really embrace and course correct, that break that generational cycle, so that when my daughter decides, you know, not decides, but decides, yes, to take a pill for something, I'd be like, okay, well, you know, I can't expect her pain tolerance levels to be the same as mine. And also her tolerance levels might be higher or lower than mine. Because we cannot expect others to cope in the same way that we do. My mom and I now, okay, so my mom really did her best. Like it's this whole theme of my whole How to Deal with Asian Parents book, is that really most, I would say 99, I don't know what percentage, I'm not gonna go statistical on you, but most parents want the best for their kids. You know, we have their best intentions, and she did her best with her 3 daughters with what she has and with her experience. She had good intentions, and she instilled with me like many important things that, you know, that I value and I want to pass on to my kids. But we will always be in disagreement about pain management. You know, like she has her values and beliefs and priorities and what she grew up with and her kind of mindset and belief system around what pain is and what dealing with it looks like and how to manage, and, you know, her expectations of that. And then I have mine, and I think we've come to terms with it. And you know, it's like that with all relationships. You can never agree on everything, but you can try and understand one another. Even to this day, like, it depends on my day. You know, if she'll say something like, oh, you took a pill for that, like, oh, you have a headache, like, why don't you try something else? Like, here's this tea you can try, or this, you know, have you been exercising properly? Have you been eating, you know, you're healthy, enough vegetables and fruits? And it's like, you know, those little things are just like, oh my God, you're so annoying. But, but like, I understand her context and I empathize with her. But it still bugs me, right? So, and another thing with pain, so for my first child, I actually had an emergency C-section. So I was in 36 hours of labor, and they had to do an emergency C-section on me. And so after the fact and all that, my mom says, you couldn't have held, you know, kind of like indirectly asking, like, you couldn't have held out a little longer or whatever. And I'm just like, like, Mom, not the right thing to say, not cool, especially when it's like a first time mom. And, you know, like, obviously I had my hopes up that I would be able to give a vaginal birth, but, like, you know, it's like you're already kind of, I was already disappointed in myself, and kind of recover and recoup and do my own journey of accepting and being like understanding of myself and my own body. And then for your mom to say that, it's just like she's digging the knife further into the wounds. Anyway, so I was like, I had to like tell her, like, that's not cool to say. Like, you know, if you have anyone else that you're around who are women, who are new moms or moms, and you say that to them, that's like not cool. So don't say that, Mom, because you're gonna offend a lot of people and hurt their feelings like you just did to me. Do I resent her, like, for all those years when I had, you know, I first got my period too, when I actually watched that episode of Scrubs? Do I resent her for not letting me take a pill? Like, to be honest, I did, you know, like, for a while, because it's like I was in pain, unnecessary pain, for a long time. But, you know, of course, over time, I don't anymore. Especially now that I have a daughter, and, you know, like, it's being able to take our painful experiences, heal from our emotional wounds, you know, and be able to change something about that. So I've moved forward, and I feel empowered to have that opportunity with my daughter when she does, you know, 10 years down the road, gets her period. And also for anyone who's watching this right now, and maybe you grew up in a very similar situation, and you have never taken a painkiller for cramps. Like, I mean, I'm not a medical clinician, but, like, for me, it's helped a lot to be able to just to take the edge off the pain when you're really busy, especially when you're at work, or especially when you've got so many things going on and you've got a splitting headache. Like, for me, it kills right at the top. And if I can't, like, why suffer? Like, why suffer when there's a solution for it, even if it's temporary? Anyway, so I feel empowered to change history for my kids and for anyone watching this. So I have a daughter, right? So last month I went upstairs to the bathroom to change my pad, and she followed me upstairs. Like, she's almost 4, so you know how through this stage you just follow their mom doing everything. They want to just copy you, right? And so she saw a glimpse of my soiled napkin, and she points to it, and she's like, what's that? What are you doing? And so, you know, like, instead of like covering it up and closing the door and shutting the conversation, I explained to her, I said, you know what, I'm changing my pad, like how I change your little brother's diaper. And then when it's dirty, you have to change it. And I tell her that women, you know, like grown women, experience a period every month. It's called King. And in Chinese, I saw, because we speak Cantonese to her, so I have to like look up these words. And we bleed out of her vaginas. And I said the word, like, you know, and this is what happens for us to have babies. So she's curious and she asks more questions, and, you know, I explained to her, like, the emotional aspect of it, right? I explained to her that when this happened, mommy gets a little less patient, and sometimes she's in a bit of pain, so she has to rest, and she has to take some medicine to feel better sometimes. Like, you know, for her, when she's gotten the flu or something like that, you know, we sometimes give her a little bit of that liquid Advil to help with the fever. Kind of connecting on their level so they understand what you're going through. And then of course I'm going to make sure that the conversation remains open. And every month I get my period, I'm going to tell her about it. And I'm going to have it keep it an open and honest conversation, so that by the time she gets her period and she starts menstruating, it's not going to be like this closed, oh my God, private secret, I don't want to tell anybody kind of thing, but rather, hey mom, like I'm experiencing my period, I'm my first period, and maybe she's going to get some cramping, maybe she'll go experience some other PMS symptoms that can be eased with a little bit of Tylenol. And will I let her take a Tylenol? Abso-freaking-lutely. Anyway, so I'd love to know what has been your experience, like with this Asian culture. I don't know if you've experienced it. Asian moms being very like, don't take pills, or, pain is good, anything to ease your pain is for the weak. Let me know, and just share your story with me. I'm very curious.